How much do you think of the world's wealth is hidden offshore? Take a guess. Millions of dollars? Billions? Economists estimated that the wealth hidden in tax havens is about 10% of the global GDP. That is more than $8 trillion. What are tax havens? We'll come to that. But why on earth would people hide their money in the first place? Don't they want to maintain it? Why hide it when you can spend it to have an incredibly lavish life? Let me just make it clear. It's not the criminals who are hiding the money, but the world's largest organizations. Apple, Microsoft, Google, you name it. It's a common practice and it's 100% legal. But wait, why do you want to hide your hard-earned money? You didn't steal it from anyone. So why and from whom are you hiding it? The world you live in, the government you abide by, thinks that you should be punished the most by paying your share with their greedy progressive tax system. A world where the more values you create, the more taxes you have to pay to the government. Let me just put this straight. Let's say you started your company in the US and everything is just perfect. In your first year itself, you have made an incredible profit of $100 million. Congratulations, you are a genius. Before you celebrate your success, IRS is going to knock on your door and take $21 million out of your $100 million. Because the corporate tax in US is 21%. That's a lot of money. Why would you pay so much to the government when you made that money with your blood and sweat? To be honest, that's still low. Because before Trump, during Obama, the corporate tax rate was 35%, which means you would have paid $35 million for every $100 million you make and would be left with only $65 million. To make things more worse, in most of the countries of Asia, Australia and North America, you're subjected to every tax imaginable, such as personal tax, income tax, sales tax, excise tax, property tax, and investment tax too. How can the government, who played no part in making your business a success, take such a huge chunk of your hard-earned money for nothing? Wait, that's not the only bad news. Even if you decide to go abroad and sell your product elsewhere, maybe in Europe, where the tax rate is lower than that of US, whether it's fair or unfair, the IRS will still come after you for its greedy share of your profit, apart from the tax you already will be paying in that country. With all these potential taxes being applied to your income, you come to a harsh realization. You decided to revolt against the government. One thing you have to understand is that the entire lifeblood of the government depends on taxes to survive and to thrive. Governments are made up of very power-hungry people that would prefer to stay in power and acquire money from the people to maintain that power. So if you threaten their rule by withholding their lifeblood, and especially if you're a big fish, then they will put all their effort to track you down and make you suffer. But wait.
Amazon, his company, is one of the country's most valuable, but the company's tax payments are not keeping up with its great wealth. Okay, that's a profound understatement. Here's one example. Last year, Amazon made $5.6 billion in profit. They netted that, but they used tax credits and other benefits to avoid paying any federal income tax.
Maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So if he's paid zero, that means zero for troops, zero for vets, zero for schools or health.
Being a common man, if I'm not entitled to avoid taxes, how can these giant companies get away with it? What's their excuse? So then I decided to dig deep into it. How do these big corporations avoid paying taxes? How do they do it? Isn't it illegal? Well, let me explain. There is a way for you to avoid all taxes legally. There comes a time in every successful businessman's life where after making so much of money, you're better off learning how to rip off the tax system in legitimate and legal ways. So what you do is, instead of declaring $100 million in profit, paying $21 million in taxes, be smart about it. How about you show your profit in just $30 million and only pay $6 million in tax and save the remaining $70 million profit without being taxed? So how do you do it? This is where shell companies come into play. Get on a plane and travel to the islands of Bermuda and start a shell company. Shell companies are official companies that you can open and control, but can't be traced back to you. It's easy, fast, and would cost almost nothing, because you wouldn't have the stuff building or anything else except an address to a small office in the middle of nowhere. Then simply give all your patents, trademarks, and intellectual properties of any kind from your real company that is in the US to your company in the Bermuda. So when IRS comes to collect your $21 million out of your $100 million, you say, sorry, we have licensed this technology from this company in Bermuda, so we have to pay $70 million to them. And now we are just left with $30 million as profit. Which means now you only have to pay the tax for that $30 million, which is $6 million. And the remaining $70 million in Bermuda are not taxed because the corporate tax in Bermuda is 0%. Congratulations, you have saved $15 million in tax.
As it turns out, these companies are not actually illegal. A shell company is simply an organization that doesn't produce anything or employ anyone and exists solely on paper. Most of the time, shell companies don't even have an office or phone number, and often the owner of the company is kept hidden or made anonymous. Their purpose is to serve as a front for another business or individual, which can then be used for legal or illegal purposes. Legal uses can include creating a shell company to serve as the basis for a startup, which doesn't have any assets or business yet, but still has to exist as a legal entity. Alternately, shell companies can be used to mask business deals on behalf of companies that may not want to be seen doing business together in public. This is legal, although arguably dishonest. But shell companies are much more renowned for operating illegally. One such use is for money laundering. Since shell companies do not trace back to their owners, those who need their money laundered can wire it into accounts held by their shell company. This money is then claimed as business income, often in countries like Panama, with low or non-existent tax rates. This laundered money ends up back in the owner's pocket without it being taxed or anyone knowing where it came from or where it went. And even legally obtained funds can be funneled through a shell corporation to avoid taxes. The way this works is that companies invest a portion of their profit into offshore shell companies, thus claiming it as an investment and not profit. Since only profitable income is taxed, corporations are able to keep their money overseas tax-free. It is estimated that more than $2 trillion of profit is kept in offshore accounts like these.
That's how Apple, Google, and many other giant corporations avoid taxes and hide their money. And since your name isn't attached to the shell company, tax collectors wouldn't be able to charge you. But the problem is that there is no way in countries like the US or India would allow you for shell companies to be created. Because why would they give you a bulletproof way to avoid paying them? So how and where can you open your shell company? Here's the step-to-step process of how the biggest players of the game do it. Enter tax havens. Tax havens are usually small countries that don't really have much money going for them. So they offer an extremely friendly business environment to attract foreign businesses to work with them and collect fees in return. And most importantly, these countries have no taxes. These countries doesn't cooperate with other countries to give away their clients' identities, no matter what. These countries also need to have a stable economy and a stable political climate. Some of the biggest tax havens right now include the island of Jersey between France and UK, the island of Bermuda in the Atlantic, Cayman Islands, with the biggest one being the British Virgin Island. In these places, the economy holds more than 5,000 times the value of what an economy of its size should hold. Once you chose a tax haven in mind, it's time to start a shell company in that tax haven. Here's how opening up a shell company usually works. Although you can directly buy shell companies online, if you're a well-off individual, you're probably going to want to have a lawyer or accountant or a banker be the intermediary that deals with these companies to make sure everything is on point. You can either buy a brand new shell company or they'll have existing ones that have a history of transactions already to make it more legitimate, which costs extra. So once you purchase a shell company, now you have some decisions to make. Who is going to be the shareholder of the company? Even though your name can't be legally released in many tax havens, if you choose yourself as a shareholder, would you want to risk having your name on the company papers? For some extra paranoid, some havens like the British Virgin Islands and Panama let companies offer bearer shares. These are nameless stock certificates where whoever physically possesses the piece of paper owns the company. This means the firm issuing the stock can't track the owner. And transferring ownership of a company is simple as handing the piece of paper to someone else. Once you have all these things sorted, now it's the time to open up a bank account under your new anonymous shell company, and you're done. So now that you have your shell company in your safest tax haven, everything is beyond excellent. But wait, how can you move all these millions and billions of dollars from your country to the shell companies which are offshore? Send them online, your country servers will track you down and the IRS will be lining up your house the very next moment. Buy bitcoins and then transfer to your shell company. Up to what extent is it safe to put millions and billions of dollars into bitcoins? And also, the exchange charges are going to be high. Fly with all your money on a plane, the airport custom officers will find you and rip you off. Do you know that the biggest players of the game like Amazon, Google, Apple, Facebook do it legally? Okay, even if they did, how can they bring back their money again from offshore to the native country when required? All these will be revealed in the upcoming video of the series. Stay tuned. Thank you. Peace.